Hello, Iowa Realtors. I'm Travis Bushaw, your 2025 president, and I'm here with Justin Hayes, our Iowa Realtors Legal Counsel. Over the course of the last few weeks, we've been having a lot of conversations with our brokers, our local leadership, and our local association executives about the updated lead-based paint form from the EPA. How to implement that, how to be in compliance, and really what the changes are. So Justin, if you could explain to everyone, what is the difference and what are we looking at with the new LBP?
Certainly. So the difference with the new LBP is one section. There is an additional section G, and that requires the buyer's agent to initial when they have informed the seller of their obligation to disclose lead-based paint. On the form itself, we've got that line there, and that's the perfect place for the buyer's agent to initial.
Good. And Justin, does that have to happen in every transaction or just in some?
No, just in some. The form itself includes language about how the purchaser's agent or buyer's agent should initial when the buyer's agent is receiving compensation from the seller. And of course, the lead-based paint form itself only applies if the property was built after 1978.
Got it. Okay, so what was the point of this even being put in? We know obviously we had some industry changes after this was put in, so it was April of last year, but why even add this to the LBP?
Yeah, so I think the intent here, and we are speculating just a little bit because we're trying to read the EPA's mind, but I believe the intent here was to create a situation where when there's a buyer's agent and the seller is unrepresented, somebody is notifying that seller of their obligation to disclose lead-based paint on the property. And in this case, it happens to be the buyer's agent.
Got it. So obviously with the changes we just mentioned, that's where it kind of throws a wrench into this because intention, we think, of the EPA was to make sure that for sale by owner properties, and correct me if I'm wrong, for sale by owner properties, someone was letting the seller know whether that they need to disclose that there's lead-based paint in the property. So that's not the question. We understand that piece of it and what the intent was, but now that more and more sellers are paying buyer's brokerage compensation directly, we start running into issues.
Yes.
So where do we go from here? Because again, it's not a hard fix, but it's an inconvenience and really we know what the intent was, so it doesn't make sense to have to keep doing this.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the process has become a little more redundant now because you do have both a seller's agent and a buyer's agent informing the seller of their obligation to disclose. But the way you can do that and the way you can make it work and make sense is for that buyer's agent to include in the purchase agreement or as an addendum to the purchase agreement, language that says that the buyer is informing the seller of their obligation to disclose the existence of lead-based paint on the property.
Which I guess makes sense, and it's one way to stay in compliance. Do you think that there's any opportunity for this to potentially change, for this to look different? As we, like I said, we're not a year out from this, but we're approaching that mark.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely do think there's the opportunity for change. We've been in contact with the National Association of Realtors. I know that they have staff who's been in contact with the EPA themselves about potentially changing this form down the line. It's not going to be a quick process. So what we're giving to you now is kind of a workaround to make sure the process works. But yeah, there's definitely room for it to change.
Good. And from conversations we've had, local associations are in the process of rolling this out. I know some have, and this conversation was just kind of our way of making sure everybody was on the same page of kind of the purpose and why we're doing this, even though we know it's maybe not looking like the future of the LBP, it's what we're doing for now. Justin, if people have more questions, what's the best way for them, brokers, to get a hold of you?
Oh yeah, you can email me at the legal hotline. The email address for that is just legalhotline@iowarealtors.com. You can also call me on the broker hotline. I do answer my phone, so feel free.
Perfect. Justin, thank you so much for your time. I'm excited to make sure that we're all up to date on any of the issues that come forward. So again, if there's things that you want us to address, reach out to Justin. You can reach out to me any point, president@iowarealtors.com by email. And we'll do more videos addressing kind of what's changing in the real estate landscape and how to be in compliance as we still navigate changes with 543B, with settlement, with 193E. We know there's changes coming. And so again, thank you. Really appreciate it.
All right. Happy to be here.